and we started to raise money to buy car seats. So really quickly, I decided I wanted to meet Colleen Barrett, was the CEO of Southwest, and she was going to be in Kansas City, and I was actually flying out the day she was going to be there. So I took my son, took all of our stuff that we were traveling with, which was a lot. I mean, he had food, he had a feeding tube, all of this stuff. Went to the hotel and camped out in the lobby where I knew she was going to walk by. This is what faith gets you, right? Even when you're not following God as much as you should, he is still directing your steps, right? Beautiful are the feet that carry the message, right? So I camped out with my son. I felt like an idiot. I felt every eye was on me, and people actually came up from the team that was part of the conference and told me I couldn't stand there. You can't stand there. And I'm like, and I don't know what I said, but obviously I stayed. I was committed. She walks by, and I raise up my manuscript, and I yell out her name, Miss Barrett. She comes over, and she said, I know who you are. And she supported our project, gave us tickets, helped us buy car seats. And the first car seat that we gave out was to a young man named Jonathan, who won a Make-A-Wish type trip, but they couldn't travel because they didn't have a car seat. And I was like, how ironic. So we mailed a car seat to him, and I'll finish with this. After the trip, I surveyed his mother, asking her what were the biggest challenges on your trip, 1 to 10, 10 being like it was horrible. I'm like, the journey to the airport, getting onto the airplane, getting in your seat, like all these things had to be hard, but those were all like 2s and 3s. And the one question she answered a 10 to was people staring at them. And it was just like a punch in the stomach of what it feels like to be different, what it feels like to lose your identity, and everything that I've done in my life has been actually leading up to this point where I love helping people find their identity. And the key to finding your identity is finding the evidence that supports that. And I've done a lot of work with career development with people who are incarcerated, CEOs. I've done the exact same assessments with all of them. But the difference is we dive into what it means, right? It's just not a checkbox. And when people transition from the military to the civilian world, and I just looked these stats up today, over 50% or 60% quit within the first year of their first job. The second year, there's even more that quit. And the reason is I don't find purpose in the job that I have. I'm not being productive. And what they do is they chase the path of least resistance. I need benefits. I need a paycheck. I need this. And the story's the same, no matter if you're coming out of prison or jail, addiction, military, it's I've lost my identity along the way. And when you can help someone and provide them the evidence that, Joe, look, this is you. This is you. Epiphanies start to happen. And they're like, oh, no wonder I hated that job. So anyway, that long story short, but I just feel like having our identity is the most important, because when we lose our identity, and there's a quote here, there can be no darker or more devastating tragedy than the death of a man's faith in himself and in his power to direct his future. Because if we can't direct our future, we follow other paths, we listen to other people, and we make decisions that aren't correct. And what happens? We end up in addiction. We end up breaking the law. We end up in a position that we don't belong in. And if you just bring passion to people, compassion, passion, and really believe in them. And I feel like that's one of the benefits that I've received from God, from all the trouble I've been through, is that I believe in everyone. I believe in them so much to the core, because I believe you can make a difference. I believe that I can find this path for you that will get you in that journey. I'm convinced of it. I know it will work. I know it does work.
I'm gonna let that breathe for a little bit, because that's very powerful for those of you guys listening here. Is Andrew, with your testimony, man, I'm very inspired. I'm inspired by the things that you have gone through, the trials and tribulations, and how you love God even more every single day because of them, right? We have the story of Job. Job went through a lot of trials and tribulations, Andrew. And I love what you said, that because identity, once you realize that you're a child of God, that identity issue gets solved a lot of
Yep.
times. But if
Yep.
you don't, you might end up joining a gang. You might end up doing some, like you said, addiction. You might end up, going after lust, or you might end up doing some of these pits that have been designed for us to fall in, and you get distracted, right? Because
Yep.
the devil wants nothing more than to distract us from our purpose, right? And I love how you talked about from the veteran pieces, because that's one thing that veterans miss the most, right? You give yourself to something bigger, and now you are a civilian navigating the world. But it sounds like you found that something bigger now, Andrew, right? Where you're giving a voice, you believe in people, you want to inspire them. I'm inspired right now by what we're talking about here, because I've encountered some folks, like you mentioned, that may have been incarcerated, and they've ended up becoming CEOs of organizations,
Yep.
right? Because they've been in the trenches, they know what it's like. For example, shout out to Chuck Tyler, right? CEO of Veterans Intellectual Property. The man was incarcerated. The man was homeless in LA, and now he's the CEO of a nonprofit, right? We had him on the show here. And if you're listening out there, please pick up his book, The Disabled Father. Check out ParadeDeck and connect with Andrew or connect with someone here, right? Don't feel like you're going to go with this alone. You're not alone here. There's a whole community here that's ready to help and inspire. But I do want to kick it over for anyone else here on the team that if they have any questions or comments.
Andrew, how do we follow you? And for anyone listening who happens to be a veteran and has a podcast, what are the prerequisites for being a part of ParadeDeck?
Yeah, thanks. So I don't really do a lot of social media. I just do ParadeDeck social media, but you can email me at andrew@paradedeck.com anytime. Becoming part of ParadeDeck, it's what you just said. You have a voice and you're amplifying it. So if you're an author, we have authors, we have musicians. I love talking about the boxing earlier. We would love to be more involved in sports and live stream military sports. But if you have a podcast, you're a content creator, you're a social media influencer, and you want more distribution of your content, and you want us to help you promote it and monetize, go to ParadeDeck. There is you can join for free. Just hit plans, and if we do have some upgrades that, like, we have a brand new CRM that we give for our pro plan, and we also have sorry, StreamYard, because I know we're on StreamYard, but we have our own studio, and you get unlimited hours. And for $49.95, you get our CRM, which is Go High Level, and you get our studio unlimited, and you get to monetize with us. So, but of course, you can join for free. You can be part of our community, part of our network. So just go to ParadeDeck.com, click on plans. We have a chat that we try to keep up with, but you can just email, and you can do one-on-one with. You can set a Zoom up with us. We'll tell you how to set up your account. But we have an amazing. We've worked really hard for SEO, search engine optimization. And I know we had our Christmas party the other day, our virtual Christmas party, and we had 30 or so people join, and it was great. But we asked everybody what their goals were: marketing, monetization. Because I talked about Enrique earlier. Like, Enrique, I want to promote you, right? And of course, we're a small team. We're still a startup, so we can't. I'd love to hashtag everybody every day, or mention somebody every day. So we're getting better and better at that. But we can do it as a community, And when we say we have 147 million, that's the community that's made up of everybody that's on ParadeDeck. So if Kat joins ParadeDeck and she's got 75,000 followers, that's an opportunity for us to say to Kat, here are some opportunities and messages we'd like you to push out to your audience. And vice versa. What can we push out? And so we're starting our brand ambassador program in 2025 just for that. We want to provide that distribution, promotion, and monetization where we're promoting you through the community and working with veteran service groups. This NASA is part of our organization. Shout out to Rico for making that happen. NASA said, how can you help us affect our community? Right? NASA, and so 2025, we're going to start presenting presentations to their veteran resource group or their employee group, right? here are some, maybe it's Jeff coming on talking about the benefits of his program. Maybe it's the Veteran Social Summit, but trying to provide veteran groups within companies this information. So that's what we do. And so ParadeDeck.com, go to plans, contact us, set up a Zoom. We'll get you set up, and we're growing. We're going to grow really quickly in 2025. And I'm expecting amazing surprises. Like, I cannot even predict what's going to happen in the first quarter, because I know it's going to be so unbelievable. And I'm going to be the first person to be like, oh my gosh, I didn't see that coming. But my faith will embrace it. And even though what Jeff said earlier, because I hear it all the time, you can't do that. That's too big. They won't do that with you. You've got to get a contract before working with the VA. You got to do this and this and this. I hear it all the time. And I'm just like, maybe so, but God will make a path, and He has.
Yeah, I love that, Andrew. I'm sorry, Jeffrey. I just want to look. I think this whole show was, this is just me. I wanted to share with the audience, with the group. I think as my journey has continued to really embrace my faith, this show actually really resonated in a couple of things. Recognizing, one, that you really have to forgive yourself as much and accept that you are worthy of this journey that you've been put on, right? Two is to honor the purpose, not necessarily the outcomes or the possibilities that are on that journey. In other words, honor the purpose of the Creator that gave me this. This is what you're supposed to be doing. So let's do this. Let's walk this path. And when that walking that path, the things that come up along it, not to worry about what was that outcome. Just walk the path. Just do the work, and it will come, right? Things will happen. Like, you will be provided for, because that's what He said.
Yep.
You know,
Joe,
everything is here. And then the other thing was that really touched my heart was, and literally I started to look through again, and all of the opportunities that He gives for us to lift one another up. Like, there is nothing, if you look through our manual, our guideline, everything in there is lift someone up, love one another. Like, we talked about earlier, how people just kind of recognize, oh, Andrew, that's it. And in us, we're like, man, I'm no better than anybody else. I fail, I fall, I make those things. But I think that's different is that we genuinely care and love other people.
Yeah.
And He says that's how they'll know you.
Yes.
Not by our negativity or like, oh, this isn't working or that's bad. They're going to know us by the love and the empowerment that we share. So thank you for today's show. And I look forward to all the things that are coming. I actually don't think I'm going to be surprised at what comes. Like, I've been talking about like this ecosystem of a combined joint force of veterans that empower our community and in turn will empower the other communities. I think there's just like this innate selflessness that comes with service. And Andrew, I think you've got like a double dose, because that's the same selflessness that I see in my son through his scouts and those young men that take that journey and some other journeys that really kind of show them kind of a different way, right? Like, I think there's this false prophecy out there that for everyone to succeed, someone else has to fail. And that is an absolute false belief that we have to crush. So thank you again. And I'm going to land my plane, guys. I'm just fired up. The Spirit really came today. So good job.
Hey, Joe, real quick, Jeff, you said honor the opportunity. I have an acronym that I made up. Who knows? Maybe somebody else made it up. HOPE. Honor the opportunity that God gives you. Pray about it. And the last one is the most important one. Endure. And endure means be obedient. Honor the opportunity. Recognize what God's given. Just like you said, pray about it and then be obedient. And one of the things that from the military to the civilian is blind obedience to order. And I don't know if this resonates But that's what Christ is asking us to do. That's when you're in the military and you're told, take the hill, right? We're blind obedience. We don't question that authority. And that's what Christ wants from us. And so we've got to endure that and be obedient until the end, until he points you in a different direction. And so anyway, I think about that often. Honor the opportunity, because if we don't, we miss it, right? And then maybe it's just dumb luck, I guess. But the other thing is, I would encourage us, I don't offend LinkedIn or everybody on LinkedIn, but sometimes we can live in a fishbowl. And sometimes I think LinkedIn is that fishbowl. And honestly, I love thumbs up and I love hearts, but it doesn't pay the bills. I encourage us to get out of LinkedIn a little bit and find the hundreds of thousands and millions of other veterans that are not on LinkedIn. Because sometimes I think we get so comfortable with the people that we know will support us, right? And we'll get the thumbs up. So I would encourage, and this is what I'm trying to do, is to break that code. And somebody said it earlier, how do we affect more people around us? And we've got to get out of that fishbowl. And I was telling my friend, if you want to eat fishbowl food, stay in the fishbowl, right? We get a little sprinkle of food. If you want some powerful food, jump out of that fishbowl and eat steak, and eat that, what is going to take you to the next level to affect a whole nother community that doesn't have the benefits of having a relationship with a nice group of people here. So that's my big ask, is to do that.
I love that. Ladies, any final comments, questions?
I want to say a final comment. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. I feel that what you've learned as a child and what you learned in the military has really just cultivated this conversation that we have today, even as a business owner today. My last question is, for any veteran out there and for any supporters, what do you think that is going to be for us to make the biggest impact today for ourselves?
Ask that one more time.
What can we make in the biggest impact for ourselves?
First thing comes to my mind is write it down, I guess. Claim it. I used to have a boss that said, step into your power. And I hated when he told it to me. But, I say it to myself all the time, like, step into your power, step into your blessing, step into that opportunity. Because if you don't step into it, you're going to miss it. And he was just really trying to encourage me. He was really saying, Andrew, you're really important. You're smart. You have ideas. You can change things in our company, but you're holding it back. So I believe, of course, everybody has that power, right? And if they just step into that power and they realize it's not, you're not waiting for a lucky lottery ticket. You've already been confirmed with Christ that you've already won that lottery of eternity. So I would just encourage veterans to, and again, that's what ParadeDeck is about. Like, and maybe that's a challenge to me, is how do we amplify those voices? Maybe you're not a social media influencer. Maybe you're not a podcaster, but we can still help you with that journey. And so I'm going to maybe come back to you on that. But I just think the first step is write it down, claim it, and share it with somebody else, I think is the other thing. Hey, Jeff, I'm feeling empowered. I really want to step into it, but I don't know how to do it. Can you help me? And, my rule of calling my friends, hey, Kat, just listen to me. Tell me I'm great. I've got this idea. And, she can just lie. Like, she can think it's a horrible idea. But all I need to hear is Kat say, I love you. I think you're great. I think you're amazing. And, I've got a friend that, we do it daily. Daily we listen to each other and we understand this is not a complaining session. This is a movement forward session, and the more we talk, the more it starts to bubble up, so surround yourself with people. Go, I need to do this. I need to get back to AA, right? I need to go to meetings. I'm being selfish by not sharing my story. I'm being selfish that I'm not out there proactively helping other people, right? I have time to do that, because I think what we say to ourselves, Lakeisha, is once this happens, I'll do this. I've said that my whole life. when does that come? When is that coming? Like, when is it? I'm 56, right? And when is when, right? When is what going to happen that I can finally do that making a difference, right? And I'm ashamed to say that. I need to be going to meetings. I need to be meeting people where they are. I need to be sharing my career development, right? And I'm not doing it. So I encourage that. That's my answer.
That's the best advice ever
Thank
for each
you.
and every one of us. Thank you.
Kat?
Well, I just want to say what I've been hearing a lot about is, having, like when you said you call people or people call you and you just, it's not a complaint session. It's, I call it a venting. Like I'll call my husband and he'll say, what's wrong? I go, I need to vent. And he will shut up. He'll just like, oh, I'm just listening. But I think also in knowing that whether you're in business or personal life or whatever, that if you make a mistake, it's not the be all and end all. I don't think of it as failure. I think of it as failing forward. If you're smart, you learn from the mistake and you keep moving forward. One of the things I learned in the military, and this is a supervisor who told me this, he said, when you make a mistake, come and tell me, and then we can fix it together. So when I make a mistake, I'm the first one to say, yeah, I think it was me. Now, maybe it wasn't, but it takes the argument out of it. And I'm like, yeah, it was me. And they're like, oh, okay, well, no problem. We know how to fix it now. So thank you for being here today. I really appreciate your presence and what you've had to say.
Yeah. And I have to give a shout out to my friends because I do complain. I vent to them a lot. Like when they call, I'm just hijack the conversation immediately. Like, and then at the end, I'm like, how are you doing? So, but they put up with it, and that's just a blessing that, they do. And I'd encourage people, pick up that phone and call somebody before you actually need to call them for a favor. I hate doing that. Like, I haven't talked to Jeff in a while, but I need something, so practice that. And again, Lakeisha, back to your question, maybe that's a good way to, just checking up on people. And, I had this health scare. It wasn't really a scare, but it just was. And one of my friends said, hey, do you have somebody else I can call to check on you? And I'd never had somebody say that before. Like, I'm worried about you. I want to make sure that if I don't hear from you, now this person hears from me every day. So I'm like, all right, if I give you a phone number, don't call them 2 hours after you can't find me, right? Don't call the police, but that was a wake up call of like the support that I have. And I hope other people can be comfortable doing that. But so thanks, Kat, for that.
Powerful, powerful words. I'm glad that we went longer than usual for this show because, 2024 was a great year. Today we woke up, we're still living, we're still breathing, we're still talking, we're still motivating, we're still inspiring one another. And Andrew, I love how you talked about making that call. It is very important that we make that call or go and see that person because tomorrow is not guaranteed. It is not. We may not wake up tomorrow. And so today is all that matters. Don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about what you're going to say. Just go and say it and go do it. And so, Andrew, I do want to leave you with any final comments or words, for the rest of, 2024 and then heading into 2025.
Yeah, I will just, echo what you just said. Like as a Marine, so when I was going through this injury that I have, I did not want to go to the emergency room, but I was in pain, like debilitating. And I'm like, I can solve this myself. I'll just roll it out with a foam, roller. But I think that's what the Marine Corps teaches us, right? Like that self-sufficiency, I don't need help. And so I challenge myself every day, to find help, right? Just to find some element in my life that I can just ask somebody else and just practicing. And I've been blessed, right? And I don't know, I kind of know what it feels like to do that, go down that slippery slope, of like, is this it? Is this the end of my life? Is this, and so I can empathize somewhat with somebody who struggles with PTSD or, and suicide, and that it's real, because I think people that aren't in the military and people that aren't experiencing that don't truly understand that it really happens, and that's kind of how I felt. Like, how can that? And then I felt it myself. I felt it, and I'm like, wow, I really get how you can slip really quickly. And so But yeah, 2024 was great. It was bumpy for us, but it's always forward momentum, always, always, always. And sometimes you just have to measure that distance, right? Because when you're really focused, you don't see those advances that you're making. You kind of only feel kind of the retreats. But yeah, 2025, we're working. Somebody asked like what media outlets we're working with. Reach across America. We are. We're working with the VA, the Department of VA. We're really trying to finalize some streaming opportunities because we have endless content. Like I mentioned Enrique. Enrique can give me a year worth of content, right? And we can stream that. We have amazing, and it's kind of interesting when I watch ParadeDeck TV on Apple TV, it's different, like than watching it on YouTube. It's different. It's just like, oh wow, this is actually pretty interesting. We just added Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver. They have a streaming channel on our platform on Apple TV on caregiving, and I'm really excited to get that distribution out. So for 2025, you can expect to see us hopefully in every VFW, every American Legion, every VA, that when you look up, you're seeing ParadeDeck and you're seeing a veteran or a service member telling their story, interviewing people, and that's where we meet. That's the reconciliation of where veterans tell their stories and people are hearing it. And we have a series called American Warriors where we professionally have interviewed people from different eras, and it is amazing content. I can just sit and watch episode after episode, and we need to respect that. And my final thing is we want to work with these service organizations to get younger people involved, and we hope that ParadeDeck can do that. And it's a shout out to VFW. We're available and we're ready to work with you. We're ready to bring events through ParadeDeck so that younger people are coming and joining. We're meeting with MCON next week, the conference. We're hoping that ParadeDeck is at MCON this next year. And so a lot of things to go. And anybody has ideas, I'm always open. I met with somebody the other day and he had a list of grievances, right? And they weren't, at first it was grievances. If you're a founder, you don't want to tell, it's like telling somebody their baby is ugly, right? Like, wait a second. He's a good friend of mine, right? And it's like, he's the only guy that gives me feedback, right? And he's doing it because he supports me. He supports ParadeDeck, right? And he gave me this long list. I'm like, you're right. Like that's, like what's the value of ParadeDeck for me, right? And wow, I'm not quite sure, so we need that feedback, so 2025 is scaling and growing and obviously getting feedback and taking that to push us forward.
Well said. Thank you, Andrew. And I will have an ask for everyone here. There's a lot of problems that are going on in the world. If you be a part of the solution here, right? Andrew is solving a very important problem when it comes to giving a voice to the military veteran. If you know a business, local business, especially a veteran-owned or mom and pop shop, please support them. The more you support these people who are your neighbors, the more they're going to keep pouring back into your community, and your community is going to be better for it, and all the glory is going to be given to God. And I love the fact that we can support one another, Andrew. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everyone here that's listening, please have a great Merry Christmas, a New Year, and we will see you guys in 2025. Veterans Club signing out.
I think I think Jeffrey logged out on his own.
I think we're still live.